Oh my gosh, I think we figured it out. The secret to the countdown is just making it 30 seconds. We did it. All right. Welcome to Love in the Time of Hydra. Oh boy. This is a big one. We are the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. 10th anniversary podcast. On this day, 10 years ago, Tuesday, November 5th, a lot was happening in the world. The top movie at the box office that day was Ender's Game. Royals by Lord was still the number one song. DMX was arrested in South Carolina for driving with a suspended license. Bill de Blasio was nominated mayor of New York City, and Toronto Mayor Rob Ford admitted to smoking crack. But the most important thing that happened on this day 10 years ago was Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s 6th episode, FZZT, aired on ABC at 8/7 Central. I'm Jamie Jarek, and I'm here with my co-host boyfriend and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. novice, Tony Poletto. Hi, Tony.
Hi, Jamie. Hi, everybody listening and watching. So you say FZZT, I say zzz.
We're going to talk about that in a little bit.
Okay.
That's going to come up. Don't worry. But I do want to tell our audience that we do not have a guest today. Our friend, good friend BJ had to back out. She had a good reason. We still love her. And at first I was disappointed because this is such a good episode that I was like excited for someone who didn't really know the show well to have this gateway into it. But then I remembered that this episode is the first of the series that has a commentary. And so like there is so much to talk about. We do not need a third person. Yeah. Thank you for that insight. So, Tony, what were you doing on this day 10 years ago?
I was working in a stained glass factory, creating my own designs based on some Roman Catholic relics that we had.
Oh, wow.
This was a part-time thing. I didn't get that far into it, but it was nice to be a part.
Mm-hmm. Okay, wow, that's fascinating. Learning something new about you every week.
Yeah, you are. I'm an interested travel man.
Yeah, you really are. 10 years ago, once again, time hop has failed me. It goes right from 9 years to 15 years every week. But I do want to cheat a little and talk about 6 years ago, because Friday marked 6 years since I wrote a BuzzFeed article that said reasons you should watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Clark Gregg shared it, and that is how him and I got connected on the interwebs, and that is how he asked for me to do the S.H.I.E.L.D. 100th panel. That is how I got connected with all of you wonderful people in the fandom, and that is ultimately why we are here today. And I tagged him in that post and I thanked him for it, and he gave me a very sweet response, and he called me a baller, so I'm putting that in my bio from now on. So I see somebody in the comments asking how you can listen to the commentary. You got to buy the Blu-ray. It's on the Blu-ray. I it might be like illegally somewhere, but we're a physical media household, so we always advocate for buying the discs, even though the final 2 seasons were never released, which that's a problem. Speaking of the chat, per usual, we want to thank our audience for listening and engaging with us. So many of you posted your excitement about this episode on Twitter and Instagram, and I love seeing how hyped you all are. And yes, hello to our amazing chat today.
Yes, thank you guys, and rightfully excited. We're going to get into it. This is just a friendly reminder before we start. Tag your spoilers in the chat, and that just means write spoiler alert before discussing anything that happens on the show after this episode that we're talking about today. And I would like to introduce, as always, our terrifically disembodied producer, Maria. Hi, Maria.
Hello.
Hi, Maria. Speaking of important days, your birthday was this week. Happy birthday.
Yes, it was. Yeah. Thank you.
Do you remember what you did for your birthday 10 years ago?
Yes, because it was my 21st birthday.
Oh, yeah.
So...
Awesome. So you remember, but not really.
Yeah. So I organized a historic pub crawl around Boston, starting with the oldest tavern and going to one owned by the Dropkick Murphys.
Oh, that's awesome.
She hasn't changed a bit.
No. Oh.
Jamie just lost interest so hard. So much for that. Yeah, well, happy birthday, I guess. Whatever.
Sounds fun. I also want to say, Maria, since you weren't here last week, the chat got a little naughty. They were
I'm gonna have to keep my eye out this week.
I know, but I also felt bad because then people were like really severely apologizing. And the thing is, Tony's
Aw.
not looking at the chat, you guys. He's really not. But we really want people who are also first timers to feel like they can come into the chat. And you can write spoilers. Just write spoiler alert. Super easy. But we it was like substitute teacher day last week.
Of course, yeah.
We even mentioned it before. We said, "Don't be nice to the substitute teacher," and they weren't. Now the real police constable
Now we
Maria
know.
is back. Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay. So let's just say this first. I genuinely do not know if it's FZZT or FZZT. I've been saying FZZT for 10 years. I'm going to be honest with you right now. I don't know what it means. I was really hoping the commentary would tell me. I don't get it. Do you get it? Do you know what this
Yeah, I get it.
means?
It's like something you would see in a comic book panel when an electric charge sets off.
Oh, wow. I have just been being dumb this whole time.
I
makes so
taught
much sense.
you something about this show today.
Wow. I just really thought that they would like explain it somewhere, but it's like thwick. Like I get it now.
Yes. Snicked.
Wow. Yeah, I feel a little dumb, but I'm also, it's fun to learn new things.
Hell yeah.
I will start saying fizzed when I mention this episode. Wow.
Awesome.
If you also didn't know, make me feel better in the comments. But if you did know, make me feel bad because I made you feel bad earlier for being spoilery. So that's what we do here. We give and take. So this episode was written by Paul Spicheski, and I would like to spell that. It's ZBYSZEWSKI. And if he didn't say his name in the commentary, I would have butchered it so hard. So I was really grateful for that. So he was an executive producer on the show for the first 4 seasons. This was the first of 11 episodes that he wrote, and the episode was directed by Vincent Misiano, who also directed 11 episodes during the first 4 seasons, including episode 17, which we've been teasing is like the episode, the one where haters say it finally gets good. Shout out to Alice in the comments who also didn't know. Glad that I'm not alone here. The episode starred our core 6. They're all back. And then we have guest stars Vincent Loresca as the fireman Tony. Of course, we got a Tony in this episode.
Always a Tony popping up.
Something that happens in our lives is that Tony is just a name you hear in like every other thing we watch. And it's normally not even a main character. It's just like a random security guard that they mention.
Yep. Or somebody's on the phone, or it's an off-screen character referenced once. I feel like Tony somehow, it's like the Wilhelm scream where they're just going to sneak it in. It feels like this unspoken rule of like, use that name as sort of the throwaway name. And it's amused us. We lament that we have not been keeping a tally of how frequently and in what movies and shows that's happened, because this is a game, everybody. For all those listening and watching, count the Tonys and let us know your stats.
We'd love to hear it. Also, shout out to Salty Shield Stand in the comments for saying anyone who thinks it doesn't get good until 117 needs to rewatch this episode. Fizzed Nation Rise. This episode also featured Titus Welliver as Felix Blake, and this marks his second appearance in the MCU. He was in the one-shot Item 47 the year before. It's technically his third appearance if you count a video of him and Maria Hill from Avengers Station, which is a Las Vegas attraction. Which I've never seen. I wonder if that's on the internet. It might be. So
it's pretty funny that you mentioned that, because when we started the episode, the names are popping up and I'm reading them, and it said Titus Welliver, and I instantly remembered Item 47, and I remember you and I watched that for the first time, or you watched it for the first time, leading up to our first recording of this show, and I said, and you were making these comments like, bring back Lizzie Kaplan, bring back Jesse Bradford. And I was like, yeah, and Titus Welliver. And you were very quiet about that. So when I saw his name pop up in the credits, I was really excited.
Yes. Yeah, he's great. Love him. I learned some fun things about him in the commentary, which we will talk about. So in another podcast that I do lately, I've been doing impromptu recaps of Loki episodes, and people seem to enjoy it. So I thought I would try it for the first time for this episode, Tony, if you're okay with it.
I mean, this is the Olaf school of recaps. Like, lay it on us, Jamie. Yeah.
Okay, you'd think I prepared for it, but I really didn't. So let's give it a try. And 3, 2, 1. Fizzed! We start with some Boy Scouts in the woods. They're telling scary stories. They're having fun. But then the counselor's like, "What's that noise?" And they're like, "Haha, you're just playing with me." But no, there's something happening. He goes to check it out. There's lightning. There's craziness. There's a scream. They go to see, and oh man, this man is floating and dead with bolts of electricity. What is happening? Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. drop. We're in it. Here we go. All of a sudden, we're in the lab. Oh, we got a test of the night-night gun. It's an ounce off. Oh, they're all making fun. I'm Grant Ward. I'm making fun of him. Sky. Oh, she's still clipped with from all of her bad business from last week. She's got her bracelet on, but they're still having fun. They're making fun of Ward. They're doing all this, and then they're like, "Oh, we got some business." Olsen also, he's on a treadmill. He's working out. Apparently, he mentioned to his physical therapist that he was rusty, and then he has to have a checkup 3 months early. I don't know, sounds suspicious. But then they're like, "Oh, we got this thing that we got to go see." And they go to the woods. They check it out. Gemma looks at the body. Bam! She gets zapped in the face, but we don't really think much about it. And then it keeps going. They figure it out. Oh, what happened? Here's what it was. A bunch of firemen who are first responders at the Battle of New York, they took a Chitauri helmet as a souvenir, and then, oh no, what happened? It infected them with some kind of crazy disease that makes them electrocute and die. So it's all good. That's half the episode. It feels like, oh, they figured it out. It's fine. But oh no, Gemma's infected. What are they going to do? They can't go to S.H.I.E.L.D. facility to get help because they're in the middle of the ocean and she only has 2 hours to live. So her and Fitz, they've got a clock. They've got to figure it out. They try. They test on rats. They're figuring it out, but it doesn't look good. Nope. Ooh, they failed. So Gemma, she goes to the edge of the plane. She jumps out. She goes to kill herself. And then Fitz, he tries to save her. But then Ward says, "No, I got it." He grabs a parachute because turns out it did work. It just had a delayed reaction. He takes the anti-serum. He flies out of the plane. He catches her. He zaps her. And all is good. And then in the end, it turns out Coulson did his own medical research because he's concerned. He's feeling bad about himself. And then May is like, "No, listen, you had a death experience. You are a changed person. Things change. I know. I went through this." What did she go through, though? We still don't know. And then it's like, all right, cool. Look at them bonding. And then at the very end, it's the end credit scene where Agent Blake comes in and he's like, "You got to watch your team. I'm going to watch you." And Coulson's like, "Psh, just try it." And that's the end of the episode. Olaf. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I think we need to start planning our breaks around the end of this so you can catch your breath for like 30 seconds.
I don't know. We'll see if I keep doing that because I feel like we talk about it so much that it's just like I feel like I'm just saying similar things twice.
I don't care.
But if you,
I don't care. I love it.
All right.
We'll let the fans decide, but I love it.
Yeah. Yes, that is definitely up to you guys. I'm having fun. I like the sound of my own voice. So, all right. This is the episode. Tony, what did you think? Your initial thoughts of FZZT?
It's so fucking good. It's the best episode so far, easily. I mean, you knew it, right? All you listening and watch, you guys knew. You guys knew. I think the thing that was so many of these episodes already have been surprising in mild ways, in interesting ways. This one, just talking about the structure of the episode, Jamie, you already mentioned it. It felt like the episode, the scene with Coulson in the firehouse felt like the ending of an episode. Everything leading up to that felt like a 1, 2, and 3 act thing, and which was really interesting. And that whole second section, the second half of this episode, where it was a race against time for Simmons' life. I mean, it made it all that more palpable because it was entirely its own story. It felt like 2 episodes, but in a really good way.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought emotionally, boy, Jamie cried twice. So normally, we watch these episodes together, but scheduling got in the way this week. So Jamie watched it, and then I got home and I watched it, and she came in to watch the second half with me, and she's literally just watched it earlier that day and was sitting on the couch sniffling and wiping her eyes because the feelings coming in hot at episode 6. Like, I was feeling it. I was the peril. They brought her potential demise to the bleeding edge, which is such a deft move. And, Jamie, you'd asked me, how many of these characters do you think are going to survive or going to be in the show for its entirety? Which led me to believe that, we're not going to see everybody, and that maybe this show is going to play hard. And damn, like I was sitting there thinking we might lose Simmons. And if we're going to lose her, I know she's going to go out like a champ, but I just don't know if it's going to be okay. Was kind of what was going through my mind.
I was going to ask you that. So because
Yeah.
if you were actually worried she was going to die, because we watch Angel and one of the series regulars died in episode 9, so that these shows
absolutely.
do that. So I'm glad that you felt that.
Yep. Like I said, they brought that to the bleeding edge, and that is really amazing. Like I was like, surely not, but will she? Surely not. And then by the time Ward grabs that parachute, I was like, all right, we're good. Which I'm just going to say it right now. Best Ward moment so far. So proud of Ward. He gets on my nerves, but the one thing I've always said, he's a very capable dude, and he did not think twice. He did not hesitate. He did his fucking commando shit, and he was awesome. So that was my Ward scored some points in my heart today.
I'm back. I was gonna bring this up later, but I will say it now. Tom, one of our listeners on Instagram, said Tony's gonna like Ward after this episode, and I was like, I don't know if he's gonna like him, but I think it will help. And I think that like the instinct was right. It was your favorite moment of his so far, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, proud of him.
Mm-hmm. Yes, good. I love that. And I'll just say, this is one of my favorite episodes of the show, especially in season 1. The second half, I sobbed the entire time. And a lot of that comes from like knowing future stuff too. Like it hits you harder. It hits me harder every time I watch it. And it was funny where I was like, I watched it with you like a mere hours later and it didn't help. But I will say when I watched it a third time in commentary, I did not cry. So
proud of you. Good job.
Go me. And I do want to, before we like really break down the episode, I do want to talk about a couple commentary things that I learned that were kind of general, that weren't necessarily very specific to this episode. And first, I love this was before you click the commentary, it says, warning, spoilers for the rest of the season. Don't listen until you've watched the whole season. And I was appreciative of that, because that could have messed you up if we didn't know that, if you had listened to that. So shout out to the designers of those Blu-rays, because these days Blu-rays are so lazy. We talked I have a lot of complaints about the Loki one. So but the commentary was Paul the writer, and it was Elizabeth and Ian. So it was the three of them. This was Elizabeth's first ever commentary that she ever did, so that was really sweet. And there was a lot of fun. Like Ian was making her giggle. Ian clapped at his own name. He was just like having the best time. It was really cute. They shared one thing that I thought was adorable, that Clark loves to dance between takes. And they said that, I know that Ming does it too, but the quote was, Ming dances, but she's more provocative.
Hell yeah.
And one thing that Paul said that I liked, when he goes, the whole concept of S.H.I.E.L.D. is just based on how Marvel does business, because they talked about like keeping secrets and how like tough it is to work for Marvel because you can't talk about anything.
Yeah.
Mm. And one thing I really liked is that Elizabeth said that Chloe Bennett had previously claimed that she was not a crier, but Elizabeth says that this episode broke her, and after this episode she was just constantly crying, like all the time, reading the scripts, watching the episodes. She was just always crying.
Amazing.
Yes, I can relate. I totally get it.
Yeah, you can.
They're doing it. And we know this, we've talked about this many times, but they did talk about how Ming is the least like her character, and Paul said that her laugh can be heard over 3 stages.
That's fantastic. I love hearing that.
And I know, she really is just the coolest, sweetest person. And then one thing that Paul said that I really liked was that he has never been around a cast that gels like this one, and that was cool to hear. And it's true.
I mean, the fact that I had so much emotional investment in these guys 6 episodes in does speak to that ineffable thing. It's just the magic of chemistry.
Yeah, they talked about how, this is the first episode where it's really an emotional story. And Elizabeth said, like, yeah, it's us as actors, we're finally comfortable with each other, just like the characters were becoming comfortable with each other. And she says this is such a pivotal episode for every character emotionally. And Paul said that
Mhm.
it was a strategic choice to wait until episode 7 to do something like this because, you have these week by week cases and you want to wrap those up, and now the audience cares about these characters and it's time to do something like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Episode 6, right? I think you said 7.
mhm.
Am I correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
episode 6, sorry.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, so there are a couple other things that I'll bring up throughout the main talk. And Salty Shields is asking if I talk about Ian DeCastiger's prank in the commentary. He is a prankster, but if he did any pranks in this episode, they did not talk about it. So if there was something specific to this episode about, please share it with us in the comments.
Yeah, let us know.
Okay,
I love prank content.
yeah. So as we talked about earlier in the recap, it starts with these kids in the woods. I learned that this was filmed at the Disney Ranch, which is like an hour outside of Los Angeles. And the Disney Ranch has a full-time snake wrangler because
Shit,
they have to
damn.
like make sure that the actors and people working there aren't getting bit by snakes, which that sounds terrifying.
Yeah, full-time snake wrangler. Damn.
Mm. And the director, he like deliberately scared the kids to get like the genuine reactions out of them in the beginning.
Good. I
Thought
love
that
scaring
was cute.
kids. Love
Uh,
scaring kids.
mhm.
Yeah.
Tony, this opening, what were your thoughts? Did you think there was like an electricity powered person?
No, I feel that wasn't what was going through my head. I thought it was what was the episode where they were on the farm and there had been some electrical thing. I thought it was like just maybe an EMP bomb.
Mm.
EMP, for those who don't know, stands for electromagnetic pulse. And I like saying that because I love in movies or TV shows when somebody says must be EMP. EMP, electromagnetic pulse. We're still doing it. Like we've been hearing that for about 2 decades.
I'm
But
happy
no,
to
I thought it
report
was
that you
just
will hear that said on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
fuck yeah. I love it so much. We're still telling everybody what the acronym is, and it makes me happy. Yeah, I thought it was some sort of irregularity, some sort of natural or supernatural irregularity in the zone. But so I didn't think it was going to be an electric powered super person. Yeah, I didn't think much of this episode. I mean, the Shield goes to check it out, and it's like this kind of cute. Shield going to the Boy Scout camp to see what went down with hanging out with the Boy Scouts. Like I was like, this seems light and low stakes at first, but I was wrong.
They tricked you. And then,
They
we get
did.
the scene with like Coulson doing his physical with Gemma, and they had that cute thing where Gemma says, "A man of your age," and Elizabeth said in the commentary that she tried to do that line wrong as many times as possible so that Clark Gregg would keep having to run. And I think that's adorable. And we will talk about the Felinda of it all later, but we do learn that these tests that he's taking they come back normal. So basically, and they say this in the commentary, this is how we know all those clone and robot theories don't seem to be right because he's got these normal tests. Gemma did them herself. So they mentioned how this is a big deal for Marvel. We got kind of an answer. We don't know what's wrong with Coulson, but we know that he's Coulson. He's a person.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I said magic earlier. I don't know, by earlier I mean a few episodes ago. I'm sticking with that for now.
Mhm.
I'm not great at predictions, but I mean I can just jump right to the end scene real quick. The scene that wrapped up that plot thread with the moment where Coulson says, "This says that I'm okay, and I don't feel okay." That was the most vulnerable we've seen Coulson, and it got me. I mean, that I felt it was such a beautifully acted moment because he's got such a hard exterior, and I thought that was a lovely moment. But yeah, I don't know what's popping off with him. I'm gonna hold down on my theory for now.
Great. Salty Shield Stan is telling us about the pranks, which now that I'm reading it, absolutely was in the commentary. That's how great my short-term memory was. I listened to this 2 hours ago. And it's that when Gemma hits Fitz with the fire extinguisher, Elizabeth was really nervous about hurting Ian when they did the stunt, and he had basically a makeup team put a bruise on the back of his head to pretend that she hurt him, and was like going around being like, you you hurt me and stuff. So that was the prank. Love
that's
it.
ruthless.
I know, I would have been so upset. One time I kicked
Yeah.
my friend Josh in the balls, and then he put red food dye in the toilet, and it was like,
Oh,
I know. I thought I broke him. I thought he wouldn't be able to have children because of me.
oh God, that's brutal.
I know. This is really mean. He deserved to be kicked, though, for the record. He lit fire right in my face. This was
Oh yeah,
in
I think
high
you
school.
handed it to him then. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I gotta say about this night pistol, I feel like this is a Mandela effect situation where I've seen the beginning this season so many times, and I have no memory of them calling it a night pistol. In my head, it's a night gun. And maybe they'll eventually start calling it that, but like it's weird to have like no memory of it being called that.
I think I've been calling a night gun, but probably because I've been copying you. And if you've been
Yeah.
wrong all the time, it makes me look bad, Jamie.
Sorry. So like, it's an ounce off. They're doing these Ward impressions, which is I love. And then Ward is still mad at Sky. All this. We're just kind of getting their relationships in these early scenes. They're just friends now, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. Also, I like that all their impressions. This is how like devoid Ward is a personality. Is that all their impressions sound more like characters than he actually is. Like they're all kind of put on like kind of a cowboy voice or whatever because they don't. It's hard to do a Ward because there's no idiosyncrasies to him. He's sort of a vanilla super guy. So I thought that was amusing.
Yeah. And they're also like not American, and that makes it funnier because
Yeah, that
like
does
they're
make
trying
it
to do
funnier.
American accents. And
Yeah.
Sky has this moment where she's comparing Ward to her ex-boyfriend Miles, who we met in the last episode, and it's like, she's like, not to compare them, but I'm comparing them, and I don't know,
I like
throwing that
Ward
out there.
more than Miles. I'll say that safely.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah.
And they did have that, like, Ward is like not forgiving Sky right now, and they had that cute moment when they're in the woods, and she's like kind of standing up behind him, and he's like, "You're smothering me."
Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
And when they're learning about the first victim, he's like this really good guy, and Sky says it makes Captain America look like the dude, which is a dumb line, but also
It's a
funny
dumb line.
because later, yeah, I think it is dumb because it's like for a lot of reasons. But it's funny that later Tony starts calling Thor Lebowski.
Yeah.
So it feels like a
Tony,
kind of a
that was a
callback, even though
cool.
it's not.
Yeah, that was cool to see. I liked the interplay. Once again, Coulson's doing the thing that Coulson does. He's waiting till the very last minute. You know what I mean? He's stepping single-handedly into the realm of danger and potential death to do the human thing. Like, and in this case, it's having this helping the Tony character reckon with his demise. And Coulson, like they're like, "Sir, you need to get out of there." And like he's not. He's going to let his heart lead him. And that's the thing that he just keeps doing. That's why he's my favorite character. I can't imagine liking a character in this show more than liking Coulson because the way he lets his heart make the decision for the better people, and it's what's keeping this entire organization from being evil or maligned government organization. Is his leadership. He's great.
Yes, I agree. That scene really is beautiful, and I love that May's listening. Because again, we'll talk about that later. But there's some interesting stuff going on in this scene behind the scenes, and it's these firefighters. First of all, they filmed this in an actual fire station, and Elizabeth Henstridge was like, "I was worried. Don't they need it for fires?" And so they asked Marvel for a Shatari helmet to use from the Avengers, and they were like, "Oh, we didn't make any. Those were all CGI. We don't have a single one." So, which is crazy. So they had to make that like that, and they only have one in the episode because they like didn't have time to make any more. So there's just one that they had to make themselves.
Yeah, just one more thing about the firehouse that I really liked was Coulson walks in there and he's like, "Hey, we were on the ground with you guys in New York," as in like we're buddies, right? And that fire chief was like, "Uh-huh." Like, didn't give a fuck. Like, he's like, yeah, Shield, I know who you are. What do you want? Like, he's like, you're not my brother, man. I thought that was like a subtle moment. I really liked it.
Before we get into the second half, the craziness of this episode, we are going to take a 30-second break. So fill up your drinks, go to the bathroom real quick. We will be right back in 30 seconds. We're back. Tony, are you okay?
I dropped a piece of wood when I went to turn on the air conditioning, and everyone's safe. It's fine.
I heard a big bang. All right, we are back. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you guys for being so active in the comments today. We can tell how much you love this episode. Francis just talked about how it was cool to see how the first responders were affected. Reading some behind the scenes stuff, they definitely took a lot of influence from 9/11 with this when writing this, which is, you can totally see that in there. And Marvel's always been good about that, about showing all sides of people that are affected by these big events, I think. But all right, second half of the episode, shit gets real. Gemma is infected. Everything from this moment on is such a banger. It's so good. Everyone's killing it with their performances. Everyone's reacting a certain way. And it's a great moment when she realizes it, because she's just a nerdy scientist. She's excited about this. It doesn't even occur to her that it could be dangerous to her, because she just wants to learn about it. And so you already said that you were worried about her. What was going through your head just when that thing floated up behind her?
I said, no, not Simmons. Like, this is not okay. First of all, I think the idea of an electronic virus, I should say an electrical virus, is really cool. I've never heard of or conceived of a concept like that. That's really nifty and unique. So also kind of scary. But no, she's having that scene with Coulson, things levitating behind her, and Coulson instantly making that call saying, I'm so sorry, and locked her in. And yeah, I was like, oh, okay, time for, Fitzsimmons and May and Ward and everybody's got to, do the thing. We got a time limit. It's impossible. Coulson gets on the, oh my God, listen to me. I sound like I'm kind of doing an Olaf. You've infected me. But Coulson's in there talking to Titus Welliver and, doing what Coulson's going to do. He's going to wait. He's not going to, he's going to think with his heart. He's not going to make a rash decision. And I just, I'm watching it. I'm entertained. It's suspenseful, but I'm like 100% they're going to fix this. And it's the first time watching this show where I really just thought it might go bad. It might really, really, she might really bite the dust on this one, because I just thought it was really, really good writing in sort of giving me hope and dashing it, and giving me hope and dashing it. It was a tug of war, and I was in it every second.
Yeah, Clark's performance, it's like he's so good. Like, it's just the subtlety of
good.
Him leaving that room. And when Blake is like, you have cargo you need to dispose of, when he's like talking about Gemma, and you can tell Coulson's not having that. Shout out to Catherine in the comments, who just bought the Blu-ray on Amazon so she can listen to the commentary.
You go. Well done, Catherine.
Yes, that makes me so deeply happy, keeping the physical media alive.
Yes, please.
Fitz and Simmons are working the problem. That shot when they're sitting, you even said "oh" out loud when they're sitting on either end of the glass, kind of back to back.
Yeah, I did awe at that.
Yeah, you awed, and which you should have, and that's it. Like, oh God, just my emotions, you guys. Like, I'm not really a real life crier, but
he can to her.
Yeah. It's quite
sweet.
beautiful. And then a really the scene for me is like Fitzsimmons really bickering. Are like they have kind of a heated moment because they're at their wits' end. This is scary, and when Fitz basically says, "You've been beside me the whole damn time," like and so what I in the commentary.
Sorry, a little bit of a delay. Hold, please.
Quick internet, but we're good.
Sorry, commentary, Jamie?
Trapped in a lab. So loosely based on the scene that they auditioned for. And so like this is kind of what got Ian and Elizabeth these roles in a way, because they have just so much chemistry. They work so well together. But Paul, the writer, did say, he's like, this is when they finally connected as people and the characters, because the thing about Fitzsimmons is they've been together for a long time and they're close and they share a brain, but they're still like closed off nerds. They're not talking about their feelings or things like that. And I want to bring that back to the shipping question for you, because it seems in the beginning of this episode that Fitz like has a little crush on Skye, right? You can tell he like gets a little fumbly around her, but like for what I see in this episode is that he loves Gemma, and whether or not that might not be romantic, but I don't think that Fitz.
Sorry, we had a little technical issues, guys.
Yeah, I think our internet's being a little weird today. I'm curious, how are you still seeing them brother and sisterly, or could you see them growing romantically?
More now than ever before. I guess I got a glimmer of it. I could see them at the end of that argument. If there wasn't a glass door between them, I could see them plunging into a romantic kiss at the end of "You've been by my side the whole time," which is just an anvil of a line. Yeah, it doesn't gross me out anymore.
Okay.
I think it has to do with exactly what you said. They have a stronger and deeper, more intricate connection now than because this circumstance forced them, her potentially dying in a matter of minutes, put them into a new zone. And yeah, I felt it. And if something happens with them later, I'm a little interested. Yeah.
Okay. And I do want to talk about the end moment, because you were taking notes and I think you missed some of the subtleties of this moment. And it's basically when Gemma comes in and tells Fitz that he was the hero. It wasn't Ward that was the hero. And then, she reassures him. Then she kisses his cheek and he looks happy while he's still there. But then she leaves and he gets sad again. And Elizabeth even says in the commentary, like okay, I wasn't sure because you were writing, and he said he doesn't believe her.
Yeah, sure.
But he is a hero. And then Paul, the writer, said they're not open and honest with their feelings entirely. Like they're getting there. But I really love that moment because it's so sweet, but it's also so sad because he just doesn't believe that because he was gonna jump. He was gonna jump.
He was 100%. Yeah.
And backtracking a little bit to when they think it's failed, and Gemma has that moment where she tells Coulson to tell her dad first, and that's just some A+ acting, and it's a gut punch.
Yep. Yeah, I mean it like I said, took it to the brink, took it to the bleeding edge. They let me think. They convinced me that she wasn't going to make it. It's a really hard thing to do in a television show when you're 6 episodes in. The fact that they really had me thinking that Simmons was going to bite it and do it in a way that it would have been a really beautiful, poetic, earned death I was in it. I was convinced. And yeah, no, her performance and Coulson's performance, Coulson's, just being such a champ. He's like, we still have time. And she like, please. And he just gives her the nod. And it's like, man, we're going out. Yeah, thought it was superb.
And when she jumps out of the plane, also Ian's scream is like the most gut-wrenching thing where he's banging on the door. That's a go-to thing. That's like we use that in the fandom all the time. We use that screenshot.
Yeah. Well, and the tragedy too, that's the other thing, is the tragedy of she can't hear him say it works. Like literally every bit of the writing of this was making it a beautiful, tragic death. And the fact that, I mean, the fact that I guess I was so convinced, this is why I think I garnered so much more affection for Ward, is because he did rescue me from having to go through that.
Yes.
So I'm like, thanks, Ward, for not letting Simmons die.
And so we talked Fitzsimmons. Now we got to talk Felinda. So it was funny, before I rewatched the episode. Shout out to Ash on Twitter. Ash said that this episode is what made them ship Felinda, and to me, this episode is just like so core Fitzsimmons that I was like, what? I couldn't remember what their moment was, and they have so many moments in this episode, and especially that end when she tells him to take off his shirt. Like, one, it's emotional and it can be interpreted as a friendship, but it's also kind of sexy. And looking back now, if I feel like it took me a long time to understand why people were shipping them, but now I'm like, rewatching this episode, I kind of would come out of it shipping Felinda more than Fitzsimmons, I feel like, because like, wow, they have had some, I'm a little turned on by this.
Well, I mean, it's Clark Gregg and Ming Na Wen. I mean, if we're all a little turned on. But like, yeah, I think that it didn't read as sexy to me as I think as it did for you. Obviously it's intimate, you know.
Yes,
just saying,
intimate is a better word.
Yeah, and she's touching his chest. It's to me, it still feels very much in the zone of a platonic respect and a friendship. I still think that they totally did it like years ago. Like they have a history. But that scene, that was just sort of I think Coulson, as I said, such a beautifully acted moment of, I mean, I'm trying to imagine a level of self-doubt that's that severe, where you are doubting that you're even a person, that you're even who you think you are, to the extent that you are giving yourself your own medical examinations and tests. And like I think that was, so he needed the human touch, and literally, and that was healing. So it's just that the two of them understand each other so incredibly well, and she gave him like just the exact measure of what he needed to feel and hear in that moment, so that he could be better.
Yeah, it's powerful. It's good. Like I also just to backtrack again, the jumping from that whole serious skydiving scene to then Coulson yelling at Ward and Gemma,
that was so good.
Is great. He's such a season 1 Coulson especially is just such a dad, because they're all so new to this.
Yeah.
And he really, like, the dad keeps popping out, and I love that. That's why I always call him a zaddy.
Yeah. Well, it's also a classic dad thing of like a dad pretending that you're in trouble. You know what I mean? Like, because Coulson wouldn't have changed he would not have changed a lick of what they did, but they broke protocol. So what they need to do is get a lecture about how difficult it is to get people out of the water off the Moroccan coast. And then he's going to scream and shout and tell them to get out of the room. But the whole time Simmons is sitting there smiling because she's elated that she's not fucking dead. And he has to, like, you could tell Coulson's like smothering a grin as he's admonishing these two kids. It's terrific.
Yes. And then we have this the post-credit scene, which is Agent Blake is here. We get the Sandbox, another SHIELD facility. They're just riddled. They're all over the world, these facilities. And Paul the writer really wanted to put Blake in this episode. And he mentioned how, like, you know, Titus is such a good actor, and not too long before that he had a really great arc on Lost, and so he loved him in the Marvel one shot and wanted to put it in. But apparently Titus is also a really big Marvel fan, and it was his idea. He wanted to touch the car at the end. He wanted to touch Lola.
I was gonna talk about it. It's such a good moment because, like, Clark Gregg's, you know, he's like, that's not the Coulson that I know. And Coulson's like, guess not. You know, Coulson's being kind of, I mean, I can't recap it as well as you did, Jamie, but Coulson being kind of a hard ass and just standing his ground with the guy who I presume is a superior officer. And Titus takes it, but on his way out, he's going to touch something that's not his, and that's Lola.
Yeah.
And Coulson had got a shiver up his spine when he saw that dickhead touch his car. It's such a good move.
I think they're about on the same level. I could be wrong. Because
Okay.
Blake did mention, as soon as we hit level 7, we hear about you flatlining. I could be, if you know in the comments their status, tell me, because I think they're about the same. But
Okay.
it's he got the authority from the higher up. So what does
Yeah,
that
he
mean?
was
Are we
speaking
to
on behalf
assume
of
like Fury or the council or whatever?
Right.
So I do want to say someone on Twitter, I'm not going to shout them out because I don't want them to get any hate for saying this, because we want to hear all opinions. We're all not going to agree. That's the beauty of being in a fandom. But they said that while they think this is a good episode, they do think it gets overhyped, especially like after knowing what happens, it dampens the thrill. For me, the more I rewatch it, the more I like it. And I was curious, Tony, if like we were really hyping this one up for you. You saw everybody's posts about how excited they were. I told you it was the best, one of the best of the season. Was there any point in the episode where you were like, why is this, especially the first half, were you ever like, what's so good about this? Or were you like in it?
No, because I could see what they were doing. Because that movie has a midpoint climax, and that I love a midpoint climax. So because it means that we've only scratched the surface. That's the feeling that you're gonna get when a conflict ends and there's still so much more story to tell. So I was intrigued from just the writing point of view of like, what are they gonna do right now? Because they've followed this thread to the end. Okay, it was the Chitauri helmet. Okay, it was this guy. Okay, he's not a villain. Okay, he's gonna die, and he does. And I'm like, all right, something's coming. So the anticipation of that, I really appreciated that. And then no, I don't think if I were to rewatch this episode, years from now, that I would think that it's lost its luster. I think I would. I'm pretty good at finding myself in the same place I was. And re-experiencing it, even knowing how it plays out, it's just such quality work on all fronts that I would still be savoring the experience of it.
Yeah. I also like to, one thing that we do is, I'm good about not giving spoilers, but I do always say, like, this is one of my favorite episodes. This is the top 10 episode. And I think that my record for when we watched Buffy and Angel was really spot on. If I said this was one of the best episodes, you usually agreed.
That's true. Yeah, you have a good track record for that. So and I know that this next one you like a lot. And then the following two, you're like, nah. So I actually kind of have a weather map for how this is gonna go.
Yeah, I think that's fine to give that like a tone teaser. I don't mind doing that. And sure. I set the rules. I love Alice, I think, has done this before. Buffy and Angel mentioned that's if you're we need to establish drinking rules for this for some of our over 21 listeners, or over 18 if you're listening from the UK,
Hell yeah.
or other places in the world. I don't know what other drinking ages are in other places, but that should be a drinking rule. Drink every time Jamie brings up Buffy or Angel.
Yeah. I should just have a whiskey in a shot glass by my computer every time we record.
Oh God, I meant for our audience, but that would be fun too. We do want to eventually do a drinking game episode because we like to have fun. We like to party. We're party people.
Yeah, we do like to party. This is a party household.
Yes. So a couple other things I learned from the commentary and from, my normal wiki search. The episode filmed from September 12th to 19th, another short one. Paul, the writer, he's from Chicago. Shout out to Chicago. I lived there for a decade. He likes to give a little nod to Chicago in everything he writes, which is why he chose Wrigley, Pennsylvania for the setting, which I loved that. They talked a lot about the makeup in this commentary and like just how like good it was, just the sickness and how realistic. And that is when I learned that it's Emmy-winning makeup artist who won Emmys for the X-Files, Sherry Montesanato. I think I got it.
Montesanato. That's really badass. Emmy-winning makeup artist.
Yeah. And it's true. Ian said that when he first saw Elizabeth in that makeup, he's like, "Are you okay? Are you sick?"
Yeah,
like he didn't know. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, it's a cool thing because the first time we see it is Tony the fireman, and we notice it. It's so obvious that we notice it, and it's important for us to see it through Coulson's eyes because Coulson has the line, "You feeling okay?" So if the makeup wasn't doing that job, that question wouldn't make sense. So good job, makeup.
Yeah. And so the skydiving scene, they said that this is what they were most worried about, and they talked about, we don't have the budget of Marvel movies when it comes to, and
Mhm.
with the shot of like Ward's face is a little silly,
Sure,
like
sure,
when he's,
sure. Yeah, a
but for
little
the
fake
most
looking.
part, yeah, like this looks pretty good for for when you got 8 days to make something. And there it was the Elizabeth and Brett Dalton they were filmed in front of a green screen and wires. All this stuff was going on, and then they were like digitally scanned with like stunt doubles were in there for like the larger shots. There were professional skydivers performed on the Sony motion capture stage, which is pretty cool, with movement. So like
Yeah.
I like all of that I think is pretty impressive for a network show.
Yeah, I would imagine that they started on the visual effects aspect of this episode well before the shooting date. That seems like something that they would film well beforehand, because I don't think you're going to get composite work of that quality so quickly. I don't know a hell of a lot about VFX, so I don't really know. But I will say, he could have looked like a stick figure. I would have not have cared, because I was so invested in him rescuing
emotionally
Simmons from her death fall. Yeah, I was like, just go. It was a victory, even if it was bad effects. It was a victory for me.
Mm-hmm. And they shout out as we will do constantly throughout the show, because he worked on all 7 seasons, Mark Kolpak, the VFX supervisor, and Ian said in the commentary, he's like, that man doesn't sleep, like, because he's doing a lot of stuff for these turnarounds. So, and then finally, the other bit of news, the fun fact, Bear McCreary introduced a Fitzsimmons theme. And my thing is that, like, I'm so bad at music that I'm like, I'm like, don't clock it really well. And so I really want the commentators to tell me if this music you recognize it like later, and if you can think of when, give me a spoiler alert and tell me, because I'm like, I really need to start paying better attention to music. It's like my number one flaw as a watcher.
Well, I think that you not noticing the music is, like you and I are active film and television watchers, and we're very analytical, and that's what this show's about. We're going to talk in detail and in depth about stuff, but like, if you're not noticing the music, it's the same way you're not noticing the editing. You maybe ought not have to, if it's doing its job. It's making you feel, it's if I'm not noticing the music, I was feeling the music. I couldn't recite it for you, but I know that I know that it was affecting me. So, but I am now interested. I love knowing that there's a Fitzsimmons theme, and I want to keep my ears. Maybe you could now you can add this to the rule set. Like, you can be like, listen to this music right here as we're watching it, and I can appreciate it in the moment, because I'm not rewatching these anytime soon.
No, at least not at least in 7 years.
Right.
And I did learn watching just this was the first episode we didn't fully watch together. I just came in for the second half, and I'm like, we have to watch them together, because I came out and you had your computer out, and I'm not saying you weren't paying attention, but I need to watch you. Just to be sure. I need to
I was taking notes.
You write your notes down. So what was the computer for?
My computer was to my left and I was like this. I'm not saying I wasn't on the computer. I'm saying that, okay, fine. We watch them together.
Yeah, exactly. That one checked off. All right. So Tony, we're going to do a brief Tony leaves the room. We're going to bring Maria on because we don't have a guest, and we love when Maria talks to us. So before you leave, any final thoughts about this episode? Anything at all?
I really feel like I spoke my piece. I said all my feelings. So I just will send it straight into thank you. So I want to thank Stephanie at Eclectic Muses on socials for doing our gorgeous artwork. And thank you to Ryan Mira of Yellow Pills. You can find him at Yellow Pills Music on Instagram. And I'd like to thank our producer, Maria. Thanks, Maria.
You're welcome.
And before you go, I will announce, I'm going to announce our next guest, though, which is your good friend, Joe Godburn. He's our first guest that's not like a podcaster. So I think that's fun. He's just like a cool guy with cool opinions, but he's never watched. He doesn't really know the show. So I'm interested to see what he's going to think.
I think he said he did watch it at least up to this point, and he said he is going to refresh himself. But no, Joe's a guy I've known since college. He's very, very funny, charismatic guy, and he's a blast to just talk to and riff with. So I know he's going to bring a lot. I'm extremely excited to have him on next week.
Yes. And those who are leaving with Tony, do not forget to follow us at LidoPod on Instagram. Please follow us on Spotify and YouTube and all those things so that you can get alerts when our shows are dropping. Give us 5-star reviews. Those are so helpful. And a reminder, ask us questions. If you leave us a 5-star review and ask us a question, we will answer it on here because we love you. So yeah, like and subscribe, all that good stuff. So if you are watching and you have not seen past episode 6 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it is time to go. Goodbye, Tony.
Goodbye. Let's go, everybody who's coming with me. Bye.
Hi, Maria.
Hello.
So how far have you watched so far?
So I got very behind because, well, there has been a large writers and actors strike. There's still so much new television coming out.
It's true.
So, and also it was just Halloween, so there were a lot of Halloween things. So I still have only seen episode 8 of this season. So I'm not super far ahead, but I do know some of the things to come. And I have seen the episode right after The Dark World came out.
Oh my God. Oh, we forgot to announce our first Patreon. Oh, we should bring Tony back for that because we now, like, some people are not here, so I am gonna do that real quick. We totally forgot. We are doing our first Patreon episode. It's not going to be live, but we're going to do it on November 9th, which is the day after Dark World's 10th anniversary. We couldn't quite get it on there. We don't have an exact time when it's going to drop, so I will announce that on social media, but keep an eye out between now and our next episode. Our friend Adam Gertler is going to be talking Thor the Dark World with us because we want to join along with the MCU. I'm glad that I remembered that last minute. Whoops. So a few things. There's not a lot of future stuff to talk about this. One thing that like really pisses me off though is how hard Ward is being on Skye for lying when it's like, you motherfucker, you're lying to
the whole
everybody.
time.
You piece of shit. Like, I do want Tony to keep liking him so that his turn will be shocking. but oh, it makes me so mad.
There's still time to build it. I really like episode 8. I enjoyed it. It's the most recent one I've seen, though, so I could be biased.
Yeah.
But it's a very Ward-centric episode.
I know, which is why I do not like 8 at all. It's like, oh, God, it's just, like, too much. And I'm not even a Ward hater. I love Brett Dalton, and I was so happy when he came back in season 4. But, okay. And the only thing I want to talk about is, like, I was dancing around this because, like, Fitzsimmons is just one of my favorite couples of all time, and I love how much shit they get put through. Like, these poor souls, like the writers just like gave them so much trauma over 7 years, but then they like, they get their happy ending and it's really sweet. But like what's so funny about this episode is that this is like the least traumatic thing that's happened to Gemma. like almost dying and then jumping out of a plane is nothing compared to what's coming for this woman.
Oh, yeah.
So that's really all I have to say for this segment. Do you have thoughts?
What jumped out to me the most was all of the Coulson of it all, especially knowing how the next episode ends with the post-credit him calling to get the files on him visiting Tahiti.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just like, come on, guys. This is so painful to watch slowly play out.
It's a dramatic show.
I know. It's just so knowing what happens, but also watching it for the first time. It's like a weird dichotomy.
Yeah. Oh gosh. All right. Well, I feel like we need to like make this decision right now that when do you think that as our producer, when should Thor the Dark World, when's that episode going to drop on Spotify? Since it's not a live episode, when will it be available?
No, I think it'll be available this coming Friday.
Great. So perfect. So Friday the 10th, keep an eye out for our first Patreon. We have an account already. Sign up. I'm pretty sure it's $1 a month. Is that
Yep. Yeah, it's $1 a month, but you can still follow us on there for free, and we'll post, non-paid things at various times.
Cool. I'm glad you're here because I already forgot all that information. Again, I'm gonna put it on social media. Yeah, look for that on Friday the 10th, and then on Sunday the 12th, we're back for episode 7 of Agents of Shield, The Hub. A really fun one, a funny one. Definitely some levity after this week. And we will once again be live on YouTube and Twitch at 5 p.m. Pacific time. Thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you for those who are in the chat, and thank you for everybody who is listening later on Spotify, Apple, all those good places. Good night.